Yeah, so as you know, Michigan has banned baiting statewide, and I was wondering what your thoughts were on that, and if you think food plots have the same effect that a mineral site would to spreading CWD.
Well, first of all, I don't think there's very many people that have read and studied everything ever written about CBD scientifically. And also I had to deal with it in coming up with a plan in Wisconsin for so-called management of it. Absolutely. It's intuitive that since probably the only part of the body in a deer that really can have the potential to spread prions is the saliva. So intuitively, you'd think that, well, if you allowed baiting, if you had concentrations of them, the deer would probably be leaving saliva, which would be contaminated with prions. The problem with that is that we spent all these millions of dollars making college professors like me famous in publications and grants and all that sort of stuff, and we still don't know the basic answers about CWD that we need to know. The first and foremost one is, what is the infective dose? How many prions does the deer have to be exposed to come down with the disease? The impression that some of these agencies and some of these university scientists will give you is, I have a lot of experience working with anthrax. Now, anthrax is called bacillus. It's a bacteria. Those bacteria are sitting out there on the vegetation, and a deer doesn't have to get very many, and he's going to come down with anthrax, and 24 hours later, he's going to be dead. Okay? But they act like that there's these prions out there that they're hiding and waiting to pounce on a deer when he walks by. So we don't know what the infective dose. There's not one peer-reviewed study that is documented that baiting has spread CWD. Now, a lot of the CWD fanatics will get red and argue and everything, but I say produce the science. I'm not saying it isn't, but I'm saying I have to go on science, and we don't have that science there. I will say this, on another disease, the place I work with in Michigan there at Turtle Lake, I went and worked there because it was the epicenter of tuberculosis in the United States for whitetails. And I was told by the state agency folks that was an unmanageable area, that you couldn't work with the people. And that was a baiting area like there's no tomorrow. My first experience there was at Rogers City. I went up there to give a talk in February of all times. And the guy put me up in his daughter's bedroom, not with his daughter, but because he had outside her window he had a pile of sugar beets about 8 feet tall with a light on it. And so at 2 o'clock in the morning, I woke up and looked out the window, and there was this poor doe standing on top of this pile of sugar beets gnawing at a frozen beet. Well, sugar beets in themselves have a problem, but we won't go into that. But, I thought, geez, whiz, this isn't deer hunting, and but what we found out is that anything that spreads deer out, there's a huge difference between baiting and feeding. And I've never seen an agency guy that could get his mind around or her mind around that there is a difference. I see no problem if legal. I see no problem with feeding if it's just part of a comprehensive habitat management program, that we first produce high quality habitat and then we use it there. It would really help us, say, in Michigan, if we could legally feed. We don't hunt over bait. It's illegal, but we would hunt over bait when it was legal. But it would really help us out. And what we did at Turtle Lake, when I got there, we had a 12% infection rate in tuberculosis. Well, we've got a timbering program, started managing the timber. We've got a huge food plot program, and we really hammered the does and brought the population down, and we spread the deer out. And the minute we spread the deer out, our infection rate now is less than 1%. So management is the key to all of these things. But the thing about, it's like chronic wasting disease. When chronic wasting disease came on the scene, a lot of agency and university types viewed it as a hammer. It was the hammer they could use to eliminate all the things that they hated about deer hunting, and one of which was baiting. And now there's some of them, they tried for a while to say that planting food plots was going to spread CWD. They did this funky study where they showed that they could harvest some prions out of grass, and so the food plots were going to pick up prions and carry them up and put them in the deer. And the whole study was bogus, and it was nonsense anyway. So, that's the thing about baiting. The other side of it, here's the other side. I gave a talk. I was probably 35 years old at the time. I went to Ohio and I gave a talk on deer hunting, on how to hunt deer. And I had a huge audience, and I made this really stupid stuff. I said, I wish you guys would get out of those boxes staring at those bait piles and start really hunting deer. Well, afterwards, this 84 man came up to me and he said, I understand your position, but you need to understand, my knees are shot and I have a bad heart. That's the only way I can hunt. And I felt like I was about that tall. And I never shot my mouth off about that kind of stuff ever again. Is that a lot of times bait increases the doe harvest or increases the deer harvest. And what are we going to do? If we're trying to control these deer populations, and let's face it, the average deer hunter is not the skilled, Daniel Boone that they used to be. He sits behind a desk most of the year and pushes back and goes out and hunts for 3 or 4 days out of the year. And so their skill sets are not very high. So if it eliminates deer hunters, I don't like it. If it decreases the antlerless harvest, I don't like it. So there are times when I just say, well, if it's legal and you want to bait deer, well, you go ahead. But it's like a lot of things. These people with their hard dogmatic opinions, they need to think about, that there are other opinions out there. For example, I gave a talk in South Carolina not too long ago, and a guy came up and he said, well, I don't like the way you Texans hunt deer. I said, well, how do we hunt deer? Well, some of y'all hunt in high racks. And I go, well, yeah, some people do hunt in high racks in that thick brush. And I said, well, wait a minute, you hunt them with Walker hounds. Is that okay? And they went, well, yeah. I mean, what's wrong with hunting with dogs? Everybody's got their own opinions.
In the end, we're all hunters. It doesn't matter how we do it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That is a great opinion to have. And my criteria that I use is something good. Is it good for whitetails, and is it good for whitetail hunting? That's the decision points to make. And if the answer is yes, hey, great.